we wanted to do was paint the building the same color as the color scheme of, from HGTV. So we got a code from the CRA. Ended up being the wrong code, so the building got painted the wrong color. And it was just, it cost about an extra $1,500 to repaint the building. And I'd like to ask the CRA to help cost share that. I've asked my painter to pay about $500 on that. I'll pay $500 and I ask the CRA to contribute for that. Just to kind of help offset this cost.
Just so y'all have some additional background, we don't know if the paint scheme was changed when they painted the building or not. It was the original paint code that was given to us. I think it's a slight difference in shade, but it seemed to be kind of a mutual, error. As he mentioned, his painter did go ahead and agree to eat $500 of that cost, and so he's paid the $500, and he'd like for us to pay the additional $500. So I told him that it would be up to the board. So it's up to you guys. Do y'all have questions, discussion, or a motion?
I didn't see any pictures in here of like what the color was. Like what like I know what it looks like now, obviously, but what was the difference in color?
It was a tan. I mean, it was noticeably different. And I was in North Carolina at the time,
Right.
or I would have seen it. So that's why, it's not really anybody's specific fault. I mean, I'm at fault, the painter's at fault. We got the
And we're
wrong
at
color
fault.
code, so, it was just an unfortunate set of circumstances that
Just to be clear, we tried to match a color of one of the existing buildings that
There was a
HGTV
list,
did.
correct?
off the
Okay.
Roanoke,
And then
the
it-
Roanoke code.
And then
So we
that
gave them a
list, and
list
then
and
it
it
was
was the wrong
corrected to
color.
now match.
Right. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we contribute. I guess we could just extend the initial facade grant for that amount, or how would
Yeah,
that
let's
be
do that.
structured?
Let's do that. Let's do it that way. That's all right.
So what you're asking is additional $500 on the original facade grant? All right, I'll make a motion that the CRA add an additional $500 to the facade grant that was approved
All right.
previously.
We've got a motion to increase the facade grant by $500. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Anything from the board? Anything from the public? Nelly?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Good enough?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate what y'all are doing with down. And I can tell you, downtown Sebring's never looked better.
Well, we appreciate it for your efforts and your participation in that. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
All right, next up we have Mr. Carr for the Downtown Revitalization Grant. He's here and he's partners with Charlie on this, and Charlie's not able to make it, but Greg is.
Yeah, I'm Greg Carr. Sorry, Charlie's on the agenda. I'm heading up, kind of helping him head up the construction side of the building that he just purchased downtown there. So I was helping fill out the application and network with you guys, and so he said he couldn't be here. I'm here to field any questions need be.
This one's does not typically go on a consent agenda, but it's here for y'all's discussion because these grants have, from time to time, stuff that y'all might want to weigh in on. So, if you have concerns or questions, this is the time and the guy. If not, need a motion to approve the grant.
Wasn't this on the consent agenda?
No.
We filed for.
There's two of them.
Okay,
The
got
one,
it.
the one does typically go as a consent agenda item. Revitalization comes down on as an agenda item, just in case
Okay.
there are
This
questions.
is the
from you.
revitalization
Yeah.
grant.
There's nothing that I saw that was tricky or, weird, but that's 1 out of 7. Bless you.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Anyway, I'll make a motion.
Go for it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the revitalization grant as applied for 522 Lemon Avenue.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a second?
Sorry.
Any further discussion from the board? Anything from the public? Nellie?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
All
Thank
right,
you.
All set. Thank
Yep.
you, guys.
I failed to mention, if you are on the consent agenda and you don't want to stay, you don't have to. Your stuff's been approved. So that's going to be the other side of 522 Lemon, 2291 Lakeview, 2328 Lakeview, and 418 Poinciana. If you were here for that, your stuff got approved. All right, next up, we have Mr. Lee, who is here for 139 North Ridgewood Drive.
Good evening, Bobby Lee on behalf of the Sebring Historical Society. Two things I'd like to bring up, if I might. Number one is, I was very disappointed that the hometown takeover did not give the CRA more credit for all the things that you had done leading up to what they then came and painted.
Thank you very much.
Say anything about what they commented on, but I did notice that the pictures they took of all the hurricane damage was from the coast. Strange, but it did some nice touch up, a lot of good places. But you all did the yeoman's work, all the heavy lifting, and thank you so much as a Sebring.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. The next thing is, we want to be part of it. The Sebring Historical Society would like to build a museum at the old ancestry property. And that's all I've got to say.
So a little bit of background here. Not only Bobby Lee has come and he has talked with me on a couple of different occasions about a project that they were interested in. And then in the meantime, we had another proposal that was submitted and is in the possession of Christie. So this evening, what I was going to put to the board is we have a couple of options. Number one, you can say that you don't want to deal with any proposals right now, that you want to just leave it alone. Number two, we can go ahead and open it up for disposition and go through the 30-day advertising period and see what proposals that we receive. We would then form a committee and move forward through the process that you guys are very familiar with. And then that does not obligate you to accepting any of those proposals. You could still reject them all and leave it as is. So those are basically our two options that we have to contend with this evening. Unless you have questions that you want to direct directly to Mr. Lee at this time. Let me do that part first. Otherwise, I would say we would just wrap this whole thing up and allow them to submit.
Yeah, I mean, unless somebody has a reason why we shouldn't be accepting anything, I think that's the logical conclusion. It's just to open up the disposition process.
Agreed. I agree.
All right. Is there anyone from the public? Dr. Kuiper, you want to come up now?
I do want to. Yeah.
So much.
Thank you.
Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Lydell, and allowing me to talk. Just a little background. I was born in a POW camp in Stark, Florida. Grew up in Winter Haven. Went to college at University of Florida. Did my med school training in Miami, Florida, and then went to Maryland for my internship and also for my residency in ophthalmology. So I've had almost 20 companies I've created since 1975 when I got here. Well, the first one was when I was 13. That was in 1979. And that was called Fancy Freddy's Food. And I did Danish cookies. I did that for a year and a half. And I made about $8,000. And that was in 1979 dollars. So no, 59. Anyway, I've had almost 20, I think around 20 I've done since then. All of them have been very successful. And I'm invested in a restaurant right now in Frostproof. And my proposal right now is I'd like to get that building of the property, build on it. And I don't have an architect yet, but I'd like to have the facade looking just like whatever you would want, so I'd want him to work with you. Now, the first floor will be retail. I've talked to 2 or 3 companies in the mall and a couple not in the mall, and every one of them said maybe, no commitments. So then the second floor and the third floor and the fourth floor would be, second and third will be nice condos or apartments. The fourth floor will be a nice restaurant. I know we can see 3 lakes from there, maybe a fourth. I won't know until it's built. But we'll have Little Lake Jackson, Big Lake Jackson, and Dinner Lake. And I think maybe Sebring Lake, but I'm not sure. So I would do a nice restaurant there. I would have penthouse suites on the top. And like I said, I've talked to people that are interested in doing. You know, obviously until I have the property, I can't make any commitments to them. So, any question?
I would just say, Dr. Kyber, that we would invite you to turn that proposal in, and our process is we'll open it up for 30 days, receive the proposals, and then there will be a committee that will handle interviews and go through each one, and we would invite you in for the interview.
Okay. Well, I had written something to the CRA downtown, but I'll write another one up for you.
That'd be perfect.
All right. And no other questions?
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Kyber.
Thank you.
Dave, I have a quick question.
Yep.
Bobby, I'm sorry. Could you give me a rough idea how far along you guys are in the planning stages? I mean, is 30 days enough to put something in front of us? Do we have an idea of what you're talking about doing?
You'll have more than an idea. You'll have pictures and graphics and the whole works.
Okay.
Um,
And the same for you, sir? You think 30 days is enough for you to be able to prepare a proposal?
Of course.
Okay.
No problem.
That was the only question I had.
And I don't want to speak out of turn for the Historical Society, but they were kind of far along and they were prepared to make a full proposal this evening. But because of the other proposal came in, I just cautioned them to wait and go through the process.
I think we should have it open at least. I think 30 days is
I agree.
reasonable
I
if
think so
everybody
too.
feels enough time, but I do think we should have it open at least to where we're not cherry picking proposals.
That's makes sense.
May I make more content? More comment?
Come on up.
Depending on how big your museum would be, maybe I could put you on the first floor. Probably not. All right. That seems like a no.
There's still 30 days left.
Yeah, you never know what they can come up with.
And I will tell you this, that, like with all of the proposals that we've had come in, we have seen partnerships that come together in the 11th hour or even after that. So I would just suggest that everybody turn their proposals in. Let's go through the process, and we've got plenty of time to work together.
Of course, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
is architect.
I just didn't want to say 30 days if you felt that you needed some, you know, either party needed more time to put something in front of us.
Design work, I've done all that myself.
Okay. It's easier for us to
Architect skills.
There's a question in the back.
Come on up.
My name is Roy Mengelgreen. I'm the person who put the other proposal in for the land. And I just want to give a little bit of background while we're here.
Mhm.
So my background prior to moving back to the US was building one of the biggest markets in the UK, probably one of the most famous markets in Europe, called Camden Market, currently estimated at $2 billion for sale. The proposal that I put together was a outdoor street market experience, taking in basically small businesses that can kind of use the platform for incubation in the marketplace, with an entertainment vibe to it, where we can have a communal space to do live events to try to draw the public into the area. I think the area needs the thriving, the buzz to try to bring in, kind of small businesses, businesses that can become future businesses in the bigger retail stores. personally, I don't think another museum will fit that bill. I think what I proposed, which is full renderings, plans, drawings, which I submitted, is probably the right way to go. I have the experience to do it. Within my proposal, you could see I've met with the Prime Minister of the UK, with the Mayor of London, and I got commendations from all the top people in the UK, which I submitted. We started business here about 4 years ago in Sebring. We've taken derelict communities and built them out. The Los Feliz community, where no one wanted to touch it, we did it, went in successfully and changed it around. Built over 150 homes in the last 3 years, and we're taking on commercial projects on US 27 as well, and some other retail residential. So we've had great reputation, since we've been here, and we feel that our concept will be phenomenal for the downtown area, and it's probably what you want to bring in to try to revive the downtown. Okay.
Thank you. And just so y'all know, he has met with Christy and I as well, and we have had a chance to kind of talk to him and talk about some of the things he's done, and we appreciate your interest in the downtown. So your proposal will go into that pool. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we were back to the board and your preference to open it up. We'll need a motion to do that.
Make a motion to open up the process. What's the proper,
Do we have-
RFP process?
Yeah, do we have a motion that's written in there?
Or disposition of property?
'Cause I think it may include a committee recommendation too.
It is. Oh, yes. Oh, and then recommend us to be on the committee, so. Our recommended action is to approve the re-advertisement for the redevelopment of the property located at 139 North Ridgewood Drive and instruct staff to open advertisement for a period of 30 days and designate the selection committee to be comprised of David Lydell, Rachel Levitt, and myself, Tracy McCoy.
Very good. Is there a second?
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Anything from the public? Nellie?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Very good. All right. So the clock will start once the staff gets that notice put out, and then we will give everybody dates for when we plan to hold interviews and go through the selection process. All right. With that, our next item up is 120 North Ridgewood Drive, the roof replacement. This is Sophie's Cafe. If you remember, the roof was damaged, and when they first moved in, the water damage was coming in the building. We went ahead and had it patched. Christy has gone out and gotten bids and estimates to go ahead and complete that project so that we can repair the roof the proper way, so that can be done. So tonight we're looking for a motion for the board to approve that and that expense so that we can move forward with getting it repaired. I know that Uni is here tonight if you have questions you want to ask her. Otherwise, we'll do a motion.
Make a motion to approve of the quote from Clayton Contracting of Southwest Florida LLC in the amount of $56,807.36 for the rear roof replacement of the property located at 120 North Ridgewood Drive as presented, utilizing the Sourcewell job order contract number. Do you want me to read that?
Yes.
Okay, contract number FLR4RW092524CCFL with Gordian
Yep.
Easy IQC.
It's a great motion.
Yes, there you go. Full motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there anything from the board? Anything from the audience? Nellie?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. All right, next up we have 305 Circle Park Drive. This is Chef Mac's place. I spoke with his widow, Amanda, and we've had 2 conversations at this point. She would like to go ahead and continue to try to open the restaurant and operate it herself. The LLC that our agreement is with was in joint name between her and Chef Mac. Since Chef Mac is not with us, she is now the single owner of that LLC. So the agreement is still in place and still stands. She did not want to try to terminate that agreement at this point. When we discussed it, she is having to probate the estate. However, this is not part of the probate, so we can go ahead and move forward. She is in the process of kind of getting everything up and running. You know, she's having to recruit some new people to come in and help with that. So in our conversation, it's June, and I kind of led and pushed to the idea that, you know, to give her some time to get her feet underneath her and get everything up and running the way that she needs. She's in the process of hiring another chef, somebody who could come in and help her, you know, with the cooking side of it and everything else. She'll handle more of the administrative side, is what it sounds like. And so she's requesting that we extend her construction agreement because she still, as far as I know right now, does not have a CO. So what we're asking the board to approve or discuss at least is a September date to be fully open and to have her CO. And from there, we would proceed as normal. Does that make sense?
So did they not have the CO before?
They had a temporary
Temporary.
CO
Okay.
that allowed them to open, and I don't know what the extent of time it would have
Gotcha.
allowed her. He opened on a Thursday and a Friday and was gone on Saturday. So that's kind of where they're at.
Does that give her enough time to get the CO and everything?
Yes. Yeah, she'll
be
have
like
it.
a
She should
reasonable-
have the CO. That's a good question. She should have the CO well before that. I believe they're finishing that part up right now.
Okay.
Okay. I was going to ask, can you confirm that the construction contract's been executed?
It has.
It's completed, right?
Well, okay, that's what I have not received word that that part has been done, but I know there have been people there working and finishing up, and I believe Christy has had conversations with Mr. LeBlanc that they are moving forward to do that. My understanding is a very minor amount that was left, like to the tune of like less than $20,000, which she's able to pay.
Oh, no, I'm not. That's not where I was coming from. I was just the extension makes 100% sense to me. I think it would maybe be in our interest to know that that portion is completed, that there's not any undone business in that contract.
Okay. We can look into that.
That obviously would directly impact our agreement.
My understanding is that there should not be any issues with having that completed by that September 1st date. Really, it should probably be done by.
No. I heard it. I expect way sooner than that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the issue. I just don't. I just think it would be not important, but it would be good for us to know that there's not any loose end in the
Okay.
construction contract.
I can bring that to you at the July meeting if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve an extension for Amanda Gentleman to receive the certificate of occupancy and open for business on or before September 1st, 2005, and instruct staff to have the CRA attorney draft a letter of default to provide Ms. Gentleman if that milestone is missed.
All right. Does that make
David,
sense?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. One more quick question.
Yep.
Just to confirm, the agreement's with the same entity, right? So it's just an
Correct.
extension. It's not a new agreement.
Correct.
Okay.
And yes. So, and then in that motion is also that if she is not able to move forward, we kind of found this out.
I meant
recent-
2025. I think I said
Okay.
2005.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry about that. No.
We kind of found this part out more recently, that if there is a default in the with one of our tenants, that we do have to issue that notice of deficiency so that they have time to remedy that action.
Okay.
So that's why that's in your motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any other discussion? Anything from the public? Nellie?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, now on to old business. All we have tonight is our update from Mr. Blackman, who, just so y'all know, was in a horrible car accident on his way over here today.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I was rear-ended. Yes, my back kind of hurts, but happy to be here.
And you're still here.
So
Oh my
I told the cop, I said, hurry this thing up because
goodness.
it's
It's
actually
another
true.
report.
great to see you guys. Just wanted to give you some updates that we discussed from the last meeting. I said, as stuff was going on. Since then, we had Elite Plumbing come in. There was a bunch of leaks. They did a couple days, and they were able to put in a bunch of new zones and shutoffs. And there's water onto the building now, and we were able to get. The city was great working with us to have city employees come over, so there wasn't a huge flood and check the meters. So water is onto the building for the first time in 15 or 16 years. Mark Palmer Electric came in. I think we had to get a permit for the plumbing and the electric. Electrics onto the building too for the first time in 15 or 16 years. Oracle Elevator is coming out sometime later this month to try and get information going for what we're doing with the elevator. The AC, we've ordered parts for that for the different units. The 17th, which is next Tuesday, there's scheduled to be AC work starting. The pressure washing of the building starts next Monday. The 16th, they're going to do that for 2 days. It's going to be pressure washing the building and the sidewalks and all the walkways. So basically the whole site besides the asphalt. And on the 16th also, I have an employee of mine who is a brick mason coming because there's a number of the bricks in the building that have no mortar, so it needs repointed in certain areas. So we're going to try and not repoint the whole thing, but just where it's missing and blend it. The painting is supposed to start on the 21st, which is a week from Saturday. And then they're going to do the painting first, and then they're going to apply the brick cream that I was telling you guys about last time, the British brick sealer, which we just used on another property in St. Pete, and it's working really, really well for waterproofing, basically. So we tested it with a hose like you're supposed to after 30 days, and water just bounces off it. So it's a really good product. If anybody cares to talk about brick cream offline, I'm kind of an expert now. I'm happy to answer questions if you know anybody needs recommendations. And then the paint we're using, apropos of Sebring, is the HGTV by Sherwin-Williams Everlast, which is the highest grade that Sherwin-Williams offers. And the paint job is, and the brick ceiling is going to be 6 figures doing that. But that's starting next week, which I think is pretty exciting. My voice doesn't sound more enthusiastic. I'm tired, but and I was hit by a car. But I'm super enthusiastic and excited about what's happening there.
You didn't get that paint code from us, did you?
Yeah, right.
I'm coming back. No, it's just gonna be pure white.
Yeah.
We have all the renderings from IWG, but starting tomorrow, the architect that I don't want to get too in the weeds, but they also do like a 3 bid system, right? So they recommended an architect to us. They're starting tomorrow on that. And I want to get an update tomorrow, but I still believe that the interior build out date that they had said is still on, which is July 28th. And I think that's most everything, except for we also, McEnany's going to be doing roof and flashing and patching work for that. The only other thing I did want to bring up is IWG Regis has said to me repeatedly, which I've ignored, we really have a demand for office here, which I think is great. Their office demand, they said, and don't quote me on this because he verbally said it to me, they ran a plan when they did, whether or not they want to get involved with the building. They have some software or something that they run through. I think they said their demand was either 27, 28, or 31,000 feet. They thought there was demand for in Sebring for office. That being said, they have been haranguing us fairly often about the restaurant portion. They said we could use to do all office if you would be willing to spare that. We have been pushing them off on that, but at the last meeting, which was 2 weeks ago Friday, so 2 weeks from last Friday, they said, we could speed up construction a lot more and have it done earlier if we eliminated the restaurant portion. I'm just mentioning this because I will say when they said speed it up and make it easier, it was more compelling to me just to try and get this thing done. Obviously, that would be a change to what the original contract was. But you know, on the flip side, what I was thinking is, if you really could consolidate office space, it would help support a lot of the other local restaurants and bars that have opened up because of the activity hub. Because I will say, I truly do believe that this is going to be a very big catalyst for the downtown, because it is a marquee name. It is going to be Class A type. I mean, the renderings we're looking at are pretty good. So I want to throw that out there, and happy to answer any questions on dates or anything else.
So when Robert had come to me and sort of laid out that they were considering this, and this is a conversation that's gone on for at least a month, probably more than that. But you know, the question becomes, okay, how dead set are we on a restaurant? And I told him, I said, well, let's bring it to the board and we'll hash it out there. But in our conversation, it was, you know, do we have enough restaurants downtown? Do we really need a restaurant in that building? It was we were talking about Ford's Garage and some of the regional names that were being brought into town to look at the place. That was one thing. Now we're kind of down to, okay, we're going to have a restaurant. It's going to be a nice restaurant if that's the direction he goes. But do we need that, or do we want more people down here working in office spaces and then, you know, patronizing the other restaurants and businesses that are down here? So that's the question before the board tonight. If you're willing to make that kind of change, then we would need a motion to amend the agreement to stipulate that we are willing to let it be all office space and forego the restaurant. But that's y'all's decision to make, and that's really the big thing he wants to bring up tonight.
Is there anything on paper as far as the design of what's the layout of what this building is going to be proposed? Either all office or not?
I have renderings of all 3 floors. Can I produce them right now? Unlikely. Maybe. I have them in email. We've been sharing them through Zoom predominantly. So and then they have their different people saying, well, let's tweak this, tweak that.
So can we defer that discussion until we can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about exactly?
We could defer it. I mean, y'all can do whatever you want. The only issue that would come up in my mind is the timing. I would assume that would push that July 28th date.
Yeah, the thing is, the architect, the reason I was bringing this up today, and we were supposed to have a meeting on Friday. I pushed it until tomorrow because the architect's ready to start literally tomorrow. But basically, the office, the way it's looking is 2 and 3 are, walkways with different pie-shaped offices. They have a break room, I think, and communal areas on both floors. The first floor has a big common area entry, and they have like amenity stations, right, like coffee and water and whatever. But and they have reception desk. So it's pretty straightforward. It's just the way we've had it so far is we were going to wall off that right side and then try to split utilities to that for the restaurant space.
Are any of these proposed to be permanently occupied? It's all going to be like temp lease?
No,
space?
they're predominantly going to be permanent occupant.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, they're also going to have shared conference space in there too that
Right.
can be rented out as part of
Yeah.
your lease with your office and everything.
Right. So what they were saying is basically how they found their demand is they plan on doing, they have, I guess, a hybrid business model where it's local companies, but also local employees for national companies. So what they were saying is, when we were really early on in things, is the nearest IWG Regis Center is in Lakeland. I can't remember how big that one is. It's either 10 or 15,000. And they said that they have, maps showing where people are coming from. A number of people apparently are traveling from Sebring in Highlands County to Lakeland on a daily basis on a commute, because they have contracts where it's like you work for, and I'm making these up, but Marriott or Disney or something, and you have to go to a branded center because it's like going to work. You can't just work from home. So that's the hybrid model, is you take people who are local businesses and then bring in also local residents who work for national companies.
What occupancy do those usually operate at? Do you know?
They had given us numbers where they think, I think they're predicating it on yeah, I believe, and these are rough numbers from memory. I did have this. They were predicating it on an occupancy of, I think, 70 in the 70s. It was either
So like an
74
average daily occupancy of like 70%.
They were saying like 74, 75 was the predicated low end. They said, however, they predicated 60% on Lakeland, and they said within a month it was at over 90.
And there would be how many total offices in there? Ish.
I don't even want to speculate. There are a lot.
Like if they were to take the entire building, we would be going from what to what?
You wouldn't be adding that much, honestly. I would say you'd probably be adding eight offices. It's just they were telling me on that, hey, we have this demand that we'd love to see in this building. That's why, and they've been wearing me down on that. But then, which I ignored, but then they said we could also expedite it because we won't have to do the utility split, the sub metering, the firewall, and that's what kind of got in my head to bring it up.
I don't love the idea of having it all commercial. I'm not opposed to not having a restaurant there. I do agree that we have great restaurants downtown. So I'm not opposed to a different idea. I don't want to argue with people who have data in front of them. So I would love to see the data in front of me. But we have a lot of vacant commercial space here in Highlands County. So I hate to put all our eggs in that basket. I'm not mad if we've got second and third floor and there's some vacant space up there. When we're taking an entire building and putting it all in that, I don't love that idea. Like I said, I would love to see the data that they're seeing, because I'm not questioning that it's, legitimate, but I'd love to see all of those numbers.
I definitely agree with you. I think the reports are proprietary or whatever.
Sure.
But I'll say this, when we were thinking about the concept, whether we wanted to go that way or not ourselves, we did end up taking that leap to even go with them based on the fact that they've been around forever and they wouldn't waste their time on something unless they knew for a fact. And what really did kind of get us over the hump to start with is there wasn't demand for the entire building. That was not the demand. The demand was over 50% greater than if we did the entire building, which showed there's even room for more absorption as time goes on. And I think it has to do with the hybrid model where they said, look, we're looking right now and people are traveling, to Lakeland because it's the nearest center.
Sure.
What's the amount of time with your contract with them where if they decided this isn't a sustainable model for them that they...
I don't think they have an out.
Okay.
I think we would have an option if they didn't, and I don't remember the details, but it was if they didn't meet 70% or something within a year. And they said, we have no concerns about this being met because of what just happened in Lakeland.
So there are stipulations in there that says that they have to have occupancy in it, because that's another concern is, if we're putting all our eggs in that basket, and let's just say a lot of it are commuters, people who are coming from other areas, and as much as we want to bring those people downtown, those people are likely not going to be here every day. So how much traffic is it really going to bring every single day? Like I said, I think that it's a nice concept for some of the building. I just don't love it for all of the building. But another thing that we've been talking about is retail space, needing retail downtown. I have multiple current stores in our area that are saying that they would love to be downtown. So, that's another option that I think that I'd be open to hearing, is that maybe if we could put downtown, like downstairs, do the first floor retail versus office space. But it's just my thoughts.
I kind of I agree on certain points, but I think that the concern is, so like the thought process that I have behind it is these being hybrid models, there are a lot of people who work remotely or work remotely sometimes that just want somewhere to go and have a place to go to work. And I'm sure I know of a lot of local businesses that are remote, like they work from home or whatever. They would likely want somewhere to go. They can meet clients. I've been in Regis and a couple of other areas to meet people, and there's always a lot of traffic in their common space of people going to meet their like whoever's in the office, their customers coming there to meet them or whatever it might be. And then I think some people just rent the space to have a physical address and they never
That's
show
my
up.
concern.
So I think it's going to be that might be a little bit of the attrition of like the actual foot traffic there. I feel like with restaurants, it seems like we're starting to be kind of like oversaturated with restaurants a little bit. So I don't know that it would be the worst thing in the world to not have a restaurant. I don't know that that building lends itself to retail only, like, because like with a lot of the small retailers, I feel like local retailers, they may be able to go into like a piece of that. I don't know, like when you think of the space, if it would be like the same side of the building, like then you're looking for an anchor almost that would be able to afford that rent. Like, would we be able to do that with
I
the
think
demand
what I
that's
had
there?
in mind more was having like several stores downstairs, having several, or at least a couple, a
Right.
few, local businesses be able
Mhm.
to come in downstairs. And again, that's just me throwing that out there because that is a need that we have for downtown. So, like I said, I'm not opposed to not having the restaurant. I'm just not 100% on board
And
with having it all retail.
to be clear,
Or,
I don't want to
commercial.
even try and force the issue. Just our thinking was, and again, it took me a while to get to this point. Is well, you are seeing retail stores come downtown, and across the street, they're working on a retail store right now that we had some involvement with. But you want when things open up, the worst thing that could happen is stuff opens up and then it goes under, and that's what I went out to the different restaurants and got a drink at a couple bars about a month or two ago, and they were all doing good, but it's just you want to keep building on that basically critical mass. And I was thinking to myself, if they want to do this and you could have more people, it supports and lends itself to more retail. As you were saying about that building, when I think about it, it is set back from the street just due to the design. I think a lot of retailers want to be kind of the traditional zero lot line boutique.
But there's good parking, which is
Good parking.
There's really good parking right there. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, when I go shopping, I won't have to, I won't have to walk too far.
But there's also a great lot right behind the old Nancy Suites.
Yeah.
48 beautiful spots.
Robert, I have one more question, and this is not pertaining to the use. The current work is happening there. You said the permitting was in place for that?
So we got separate permits for the electrical and the plumbing to get them turned on. So that's all that's been permitted so far.
Okay, so all the shell work, waterproofing, all that stuff, that's not permitted?
I don't think that is.
Okay.
We're using onion painting, not the, but I don't know. I just
Check on that for us, if you don't
Okay.
mind. Just
Yeah.
I know you got stuff cooking, and I just want to make sure we're on the right side of that.
So can I ask a separate, kind of separate question? The building, and apologize for not knowing the address of all these, but where the flea market is that we purchased?
Yes.
Is that kind of just sitting there now? Like, do we have any proposals for that? I mean, I'm just trying to think, like, we have all these other places that are like with Nancesui is going to go out for bid.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different potential options of what will go there and drive foot traffic. Could office space be a nice complement? I'm just trying to make sure I'm understanding and connecting all the dots of the future possibilities and kind of where we are.
With the old Bank of America building, the proposal that was accepted would be Marmor Construction on the second floor and the Hall of Fame on the first floor.
Okay, gotcha.
And that is still in the deliberation state.
Okay, thank you. I think I missed something somewhere. I knew that was coming, but then I'm like, did that change?
No.
So I just wanted to make sure.
That is still on
Okay.
the books, and there's kind of a lot behind the scenes
That's happening.
going on right now.
Okay. Okay, gotcha.
Wouldn't be opposed to seeing all office space in that building, just because I think that promotes more people walkability in downtown Sebring. And I think we miss out a little bit sometimes on some of the residential walkability in downtown Sebring, especially like this time of year when it's so hot, no one wants to. And I do think we have a lot of restaurants and a lot of other opportunities for retail space in downtown, and it just looks like an office building to me, like, And I think, I mean, I know in my office I get inquiries all the time about office space, and what I send them is not fitting what they want or what they need. And so I know we have a lot of vacancy in Sebring in general, but a lot of that's on the highway. And so I don't know, I would be interested to see more of the data behind what's driving the push for making
Well,
that
and
office
what I
space.
could do too is, you guys meet once a month, right?
Yes.
Probably, I would think by the next meeting, certainly by the August meeting, I would like to come back regardless. And I would be able to probably bring renderings from the architect, all that stuff at the time. I mean, again, just, you know, these were, the reason we were thinking this is, again, I had IWG pushing it, and I started thinking about how, you know, what's the average condo or house is probably 1,000 square feet for a housing unit. And then if your offices are so much smaller, you'd have the impact, even with these offices of, you know, 100 units or more of housing, because an office is so much smaller, yet still has, you know, the same amount of people in it. And also, you know, I've heard loud and clear that people want to see progress on the building faster. So I'm trying to expedite things as fast as possible. This was our quickest way because I know some people have said they want to see movement quicker. And I just thought it would be the quickest way to get this done and on to the next one.
So with that, then the expectation of completion with it would be before the end of the year, or
That is what they're saying.
I remember you had said
still
something
can't
like
believe
that.
it. That is still what's being told to me as of 2 weeks ago Friday.
You're still planning on having offices there for Harder Hall, correct? And how many employees do you expect you'll have there? Any idea?
Remains to be seen.
Yeah, I think that if maybe by the next meeting that you're at, if you could bring as much data as possible as far as, you know, what kind of information they're looking at. Again, obviously, you know, they're making a large investment, so surely they know what they're talking about. But I'm curious as to if they have data on their long-term tenants versus their, you know, just transient, temporary, you know, just passing through tenants.
With that, can they give you data on the scans? Because don't they all have cards to access certain,
Yeah.
like maybe they have some kind of foot traffic analysis that they do of ins and outs of the building to kind of give us a reassurance of, you know, typically our average buildings see 25,000 in and outs in a month
Right.
or something like that. So it's generalized.
You know,
Uh-huh.
Christy's not here right now, and I'm thinking about how to get some, you know, not to break sunshine, but maybe if like you guys could all send a list of stuff you'd like to see, and Christy could condense that, and I can ask them for that. One thing I did want to point out though is the investment they're making is purely time, because we're footing the bill for everything.
You are.
Yeah, the way it's
So,
structured.
I mean,
They're just a management company.
so they're probably just hopeful that, you know,
But the thing is, they are such a big company. I mean, because we said the same thing. We're paying for everything, so, but they wouldn't do something like this. I mean, a company that's been around that long wouldn't do it unless.
and you're saying that Regis has a place in Lakeland.
Yes, they said it's either, I think it's 10 or 15,000. But you know, the excitement for me, and just to stress this, the excitement for me on this thing, whether or not we made the change, right, is that you're basically going to have the only Class A office within, I don't know how many mile radius, but it's going to attract people from the region up to Lakeland to downtown Sebring. But I mean, that's again, whether or not you made a change.
Right, so what are we discussing tonight? What are we asking for here?
Well, excuse me, pardon me. It is the pleasure of the board. If you guys are going to, if you would like to see more information before you want to make a decision, that's perfectly fine. I would say that if we do that, that we extend the courtesy of, you know, if they were going to start July 28th, that we ought to, you know, be aware that that's probably going to push that date, and we should be okay with it. It's been sitting there for 16 years vacant. I mean, I know Robert wants to get to work. From my standpoint, if that's what it takes for the board to be comfortable, one more month isn't going to kill anybody.
We're talking about two different things, right? There's the change of use, and then just extending the construction agreement. That it could be considered separate, correct?
They could, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So if we don't approve.
So what you
The
could
change.
do is you could say, listen, you want to ask him to bring back more information, and then upon getting the more information back, that's when you would take the action of extending
But
the
extend,
agreement.
so
you
we don't have to extend the agreement
Not
at
right
this
now,
point
no.
if we don't. Okay.
Are you open to doing something other than, I know that the restaurant, you're kind of thinking maybe not, but are you open to doing something other than the commercial, or are you not interested if it's not all commercial?
To be honest, I have really explored this road and been down it for,
Sure.
you know, on the restaurant portion. There is the metrics are just, your traffic count's bad, your population density's bad, and we've been through those things. I feel lucky to have gotten Regis and IWD to agree to this. And if we're going to make the change, it has to be tonight because the architecture's starting tomorrow. So the default by no action would be that it's going to stay, which again is fine, but it would stay as restaurant just because they don't want to wait any longer. They actually were annoyed that I pushed the meeting from Friday with the approval to tomorrow. So
If we don't make a decision tonight, it will 100% be restaurant.
Yeah.
I like the idea of changing it to office space.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think there's any magic in the restaurant. I mean, it was, you know, it was exciting when we were talking, throwing some big names around, but I don't necessarily think that we know that's not happening, and I don't think as far as just another downtown restaurant at this point, that's a dire need. I hear what you guys are saying about it, you know, you're all in on one specific use, and but at the end of the day, the portion that I can't wrap my head around exactly is how would performance be quantified? Every other one of our disposition projects is like, you do X, and if you do X for Y amount of time, then you end up with the building. Here, we've kind of skipped the line on some of that stuff, but there's still, the basis premise still needs to function the same. So what are we measuring, and how long are we going to measure it? That's the part I'm having a hard time with. The actual use, I don't think, is a bad idea at all. I just don't know, how do you quantify whether it was successful or whether this deal runs to its conclusion?
Do we give it a 5-year time frame like we did with the others, that it has to be this use for the next?
well, there are milestones already that were put in. I think.
Right, but do we say if the building doesn't get utilized as expected?
Right.
I mean, you're still on the hook, right? It's still yours if it sits there empty. From our perspective, is
Right.
that use or not?
Well, I think we have to have something. I think piece of the success of it is that the building's been revitalized. So if it didn't work out to their advantage and somebody else wanted to go in, then all of the issues have been corrected up to that point.
So how about
with the
this?
structure of the building.
How about we meet in the middle then? If the board chooses to forego the restaurant, that could be a separate motion so that he could move forward with that.
Mhm.
And then if you want performance measures put into the agreement, instead of extending the agreement tonight, let us negotiate that and bring it back to you guys.
That's what
I like
that's what
that.
I'd like to see. Is I think we can agree on the concept of us changing the use of the building, and all of us saying, okay, we're on board, but we don't know exactly what that entails. So for now, we're gonna tell you that we're good with it, and you can keep
And-
your foot on the gas, but we would still then have to negotiate what that really means as far as.
And what that looks like, because
Right.
I'm only one person up here, but I'm still not
No. I
I'm-
asked
oh,
right
it's
off
like
the
one
bat
every
that I
reg-
would
I don't
like
like
to see
the
what we're
idea of
talking
having
about.
to make a big decision like this without having any data in front of me, and all I'm going off of is my daily experience dealing with commercial properties, which is they sit vacant. And so it's, it's tough to throw it all out there like that. And I know that this is a different concept than just your, standard commercial building, but I'm open to the idea of changing the concept, but I just don't know that I'm.
So what are the average rates? Do you know that?
The agreement is we pay for the build, they manage the property. But one thing I will say is when I've been trying to recruit people from restaurants, right, from Tampa Bay, number one thing people say is, what's the population density? What kind of office, drivers are there? And when I say, well, there's no office buildings at all that are dedicated office buildings in the downtown, that's a huge red flag to all So in other words, it is kind of a chicken egg thing, right? You know, you have storefronts in the zero lot lines and down Pine that just got revitalized but are vacant. I think you could fill those in if you had more office driver. And there was just an article in the Business Journal last week that I think St. Pete is at like 98% office occupancy. And to an extent, you don't have a proof of concept here, which is, I mean, why we were concerned at first going with even Regis at all. But we trusted that they knew what they were doing. And I do think you kind of have a situation of, if you build it, they'll come, because there's no office tower, so to speak, in Highlands County. Just dedicated and updated. I mean, you have the Wells
There
Fargo,
is though.
the Wells
There's
Fargo building, the highway, but
right, and it
it's-
sits vacant.
but that place is
The
very
majority of
dated.
it
So
sits vacant.
So like this, I'm just looking just to kind of look at price points. So I just pulled up one in Tampa. So it's $279 a month to have a co-working hot desk to be able to go in and use it unlimited, or it's $129 a month for 5 days a month, or $179 for 10 days a month. So it's like a much lower price point for somebody that maybe needs a address or needs a space to work. I think it's a different
Right, but somebody needing an address, like let's just say that I, state of Florida law requires me to have a brick and mortar for real estate as a broker. So let's just say that I want to work from home, but I go and rent a space so that I have brick and mortar. That doesn't necessarily do anything for downtown. That doesn't necessarily bring people.
I think
down
those are
here.
much more expensive. Those you have to request a quote for. These are more just like you can go and you can use like a space, and then the other ones are all like request quote for office space and stuff like that, like permanent or semi-permanent like space within the office. So I mean, I feel like this type of thing is what we'll see this area, and that there's a need, because there's really not anything like that here. But that's just my opinion on it.
So what are y'all's thoughts on kind of splitting this into two bites? One would be concept tonight, and the second one would be a negotiation with the Blackmans for what that extension looks like that would incorporate some kind of measurable process.
I agree.
And that would set a new construction target, and it would set a new target for the end of the agreement as far as the conclusion, correct? That
Yes.
would be part of that negotiation.
Yeah. I mean, the bones would still be there. I don't think we would
Sure.
go changing any of that, but we'd need to change milestones and deadlines and stuff like that and whatnot.
So do we need to discuss anything about, would we just send feedback to you guys and then you discuss
I think that if you have feedback, that it would be very helpful and create a more efficient negotiation if we had your concerns ahead of time, so we could
Right.
take it to them from the beginning. So I would encourage that. And then whatever that looks like once we're done, we would bring it back to the board for approval.
I mean, I think just my biggest thing with like measurability would be some form of like occupancy or something like that, tied to some form of an occupancy number maybe. If we're looking at gauging the success, if a restaurant's open for 5 years, they're busy enough to sustain it. I think with them it would be a similar type of thing, but if the foot traffic isn't there, like how do we measure that? So there's got to be some kind of happy medium that we can figure out, that there's like a magic number that we say we want to be able to see sustained.
And you were getting ready to say something about the Wells Fargo building and
Oh,
get to
just-
finish.
it-
What
It's dated.
was your
I've been
okay?
in there. It's old. Because I looked at it.
Yeah.
It's not
It
bad,
is.
but I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings if people are tenants or anything. Already most of the inside's gutted. The rest of it's going to be gutted out to do this. So it is going to be brand new. I mean, the interior is going to be new construction.
I think from a concept, I don't think there's anybody here that has an issue with that changing. Like I said, I personally don't think there was any magic in the restaurant, especially not at this point. I don't think that's a key thing that we need necessarily to move this thing forward. And I know it sounds strange, but my perspective is, if the thing's 10% occupied, it's 10% more than it's occupied right now.
Correct. That's
And it has been.
I'm right there with you for what
So
has happened.
there's a lot for that. You're the guy on the hook, right? I just say we need a clear start and finish, and I'm more concerned about actually getting there and getting something done, to where we're not a year or 2 years down the road and still no movement. You know, that's a bigger concern for me than the fact that what necessarily the nitty gritty is of what happens there at the end of the day.
That's what it
Let's
feels
just
to me
maintain
too,
that.
is just kind of saying, hey, I'm paying for this, but I'm tossing you the keys. I'm going to start really being on you
Right.
on all these milestones, because what the way we have it is, I was supposed to do the major systems, right? So plumbing, roof, electric, elevator, AC were supposed to be in place before the 28th of July. That's why we've been doing these things, and then the paint. And then they're doing the entire interior build out, which that architect is designing for, and we're paying for it. So that was the kind of two-prong why we're doing that stuff first.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love it just because it'd be a single stream for us, where there's just one person that we're kind of.
No, and I
doing
understand
construction
your
management on.
problem is you have to turn this guy loose to start working, and you can't do that on something that you conceptually don't know where you're going to end. So that you have to give them direction. I get that, and I think that's the concession we're going to have to make. Is if he's going to start working, then we sort of have to nod and tell him you can do that.
So
You know,
then
you
should
can
we make
work
a
in that
motion?
direction.
So can we, and I don't know if this would even be enough for you, but can we make a motion that we're okay with the concept changing and just not approve what the
Yes.
concept is? Would that be enough for you?
I think we have to approve what the concept change is going to be, but leave the negotiation of the metrics off.
I do. How you measure the milestones, I think, is up for negotiation. I think the actual use, I don't know if that's necessarily something that at this point we can be.
I mean, I think
It's
it's,
just that the architect's going to start their actual design literally tomorrow at 1. So that's
No pressure.
well. So that's that was we pushed it from Friday the meeting, but
so basically we would say that we are amenable to the building being 100% a commercial space. That's what we would be changing.
But we're
it to.
doing that without seeing any like concepts, like any like what this is gonna look like. I mean, I believe that you're a legitimate businessman. You have proven yourself. I obviously don't think you've gotten this far in life and everything you've done by not having great ideas, but I just feel like we're making this decision without seeing anything, and I just wish I could see something, but obviously that's probably not going to happen tonight.
I
so.
feel similar though. I took a big leap of faith on them, and they had to work me through. I mean, we did 5 meetings before I signed the contract with them.
You said that you have some concepts in email. Is there something?
See,
that we
I'm trying to
can see?
remember. That's why I was hesitating. I think I do. I could step aside and see if I do. I may have just screenshotted from my phone when they were on Zoom, and I can't remember which one I did. I may have an email that I could pull up some stuff.
Rachel, I'm the last guy to tell you I'm comfortable with any of this, but I can tell you this.
It's true.
Every single one.
I know. I'm usually not.
Every
the
single one
questioning
we've done
everything.
so far was
Sorry,
off a
Robert.
napkin sketch. That's the reality of what we're doing here. It's been that way from day one. Name me one of these projects that was actually properly planned out before we turned them loose.
And
It
we
just wasn't.
and he has. I mean, we have we have approved the second and third floors for this.
Correct.
So you're basically really only down to the first floor. You know, that's going to give you heartburn or not.
Right.
Okay, I actually do have renderings in my email. I don't know how to deal with this though.
Pass it around.
Do you want me to? Can I walk over?
Yeah.
to the
I'd
two-
love
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Sure.
I don't know what this stuff is at the top.
Oh, there's
This is
right,
the first
my
floor. So
weather
this is
update.
where we pulled out for the restaurant.
Uh
And
huh.
then this is. Those are, I think, the elevator room, the electric room. Then see they have the different
So
size
that's first
offices.
floor.
This is first floor.
So we had
Those are
already
conference
decided that half of the first floor was going to be.
rooms. Right. It's the right half that we were going to keep, and they said,
Mm-hmm.
why, we're going to do a firewall there. Then you see the reception, the entry. And there's floor 2. So there's your. Oh, that's the carve out where it's lofted. So you have office, and then the vaults is a conference on floor 1 and 2. Then you have the different split office sizes. And then it's all office on the 3rd floor.
Okay.
You
Thank
see
you.
those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
So there's the
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
Just Rachel.
I got to peek over your shoulder. It's okay.
I'm
I was curious.
and I am aware that, you know, obviously thinking about highest and best use, you know, this building initially, it's a bank building. It was a commercial building. I think that my main concern is the foot traffic. I have been in, not necessarily, I don't know that it was a Regis building that was owned by Regis, but I have been in buildings of this concept where they were like eerily quiet and vacant and nobody was in them. And like
Yeah.
you said, you know, if they're 10% occupied, it's better than where we are now. But I'm just
I was making a joke. I didn't mean that that was the goal, obviously.
I hope not. But
I'm just saying that it's, you know, you have, in my head, the big picture is sort of what we have and what the possibilities for that building is. You know, and there's been a few things that's going to come and gone. My personal opinion, the one that was most favorable is as the ship has said. So I think, I don't think this is a bad use for that property, other than eventually that thing just goes away and it becomes a vacant lot that we have to start over again. And then what do you do there? So we're having the exact same discussion. The building is good enough at this point that it could still be something. So I think it's imperative that that opportunity is not wasted. I think another 10 years of just sitting and not doing anything pretty much takes that off the table. So I don't want to go there. I think if it's technically on the tax roll, it's owned by somebody, outside it's maintained and tidy all the time, and you know you're doing all the things that we want you to do there, then from the CRA's perspective, those should be measured as positives. And I do think it's more important that we actually get there and not talk about getting there versus what it actually is or happening inside when this is complete.
Well, you know, we did originally say we were going to do 2 and 3 as office, and then 1 was going to be restaurant. And again, I was going the opposite way and was going to try and get an amendment from you guys to do all restaurant, but with the Ford's concept. But you know, basically, my rationale on that was that Ford's multi-story concept was going to be a demand driver that wouldn't compete with the other restaurants downtown. If we put in a restaurant now, I just feel it's going to be sucking off other traffic. And the real demand driver now, the anchor anyway, was going to be the office. And, you know, when you look at a downtown or a city, and you want to have a mix of, you know, retail, restaurant, and office space. And I just was hoping this could be a part of that to kind of restake that claim to drive office downtown. Once the fourth thing included.
so what you guys are talking about doing, is that going to be enough for you to be able to move forward with the architect?
We have to agree on him moving forward with the office space,
Yes.
is what I hear. And then the nuts and bolts of that deal is then to be negotiated in the future. But at this point, that's what we need.
I just didn't want to start designing, you know, and then without you guys knowing about this, you know, one way or the other, because we got a design for it now to get the permit and plans for end of next month.
There's no other hiccups. There's nothing else in the way. If this, as far as construction, all that stuff, that's clear to the finish line, right?
And they are really saying that they can get this done by the end of the year.
I said that as recently as 2 weeks ago. I frankly still don't believe it.
I'll write it
but
down for you.
That's
Yeah.
what they're saying.
I'll put our guests in the middle for it.
And they were guilting me on the split. They said this is going to take longer time. So, again,
Huh.
this is what I'm just relaying. I personally
being
am
told.
dubious myself, but that's what I'm told. So I have to repeat that.
We need a motion.
We do.
Make a motion to allow the 100% occupancy of the commercial office space.
Mhm. All right, got a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Anything from the public? Nellie?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Murphy. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Deb,
You
one more
too.
thing.
Yeah.
Hope you feel
We
better.
didn't vote on
Poor
this,
guy.
but
Oh,
I know.
whatever gets negotiated, we'll get to discuss.
absolutely. No, you have to approve it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like I said, if you would send any comments that you have, concerns that you might want addressed, send them to Christy. We'll use that as part, as, you know, in our negotiation. We'll put that together. Once we have something that's formalized, it will come back to y'all. You have to approve it. So it's coming back to you again.
Would you guys maybe send us a draft before our
Absolutely.
meeting? So
Yeah.
then if we have any feedback, we can provide it to Christy before?
We can
Okay.
definitely do that.
I think I said everything I needed to at the meeting, so I should have my. I like Willem's idea of how he wants to structure the milestones and everything. So
All right, that's what you'll get. All right, do we have any business not on the agenda? All right, wonderful. All right, then we will start with board member remarks. Start down here.
Don't think so.
no.
Oh,
Ah.
I do have one thing. Has there been any discussion lately on to talk about open container or changing the
Okay.
ordinance?
Yeah, I had that on my list. I'll go ahead and
Okay.
tackle that one now. So we were presented with a copy of two ordinances that were utilized in other municipalities, and I gave those to our city council liaison. They are not a CRA recommendation or project or anything else. City council is the one who does ordinances. I simply was a conduit to pass that information along.
This
So-
is what's done somewhere else.
well, that's up to city council. That has nothing to do with us.
No, I mean your
But
recommendations was
I don't have
basically.
a recommendation.
No, okay.
He was a conduit of passing
What's,
on
what's in
information.
front of them
I
is,
took the Jacksonville and the one from Georgia and gave it to city.
but it's
council.
existing programs.
It
That's
is.
okay.
It is.
Okay.
But it is not a CRA proposal. It is not a CRA project. We are not spearheading it. City council does ordinances. City council can live and die about this one. So,
Does the CRA have any involvement?
do you
at all?
want involvement?
No, I'm
Okay.
asking.
No, we do
Okay.
not.
Okay.
I'm sure if we wanted to say as a board that we are going to get up behind us 100%, we could do something like that. I would caution the board against that. From what I have been hearing.
No, I was just curious how that works.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, the city council they are going to probably utilize the two other ordinances to come up with a concept that could be applicable for Sebring, and then they will have to have their own public hearings as far as changing or creating the ordinance, and then they will have the ultimate authority to vote on that and institute it. We do not do ordinances at the CRA. Good enough?
that answer.
Okay. Tracy.
Do you know if we are going to reinvigorate any of the things that we were doing before in the circle, like entertainment, movie nights, music, any of that type of thing, to try to continue to have some?
I am not aware of anything when it comes to movie night. There has been a conversation that has not gone far enough to do anything yet. We talked about having like maybe kind of a grand opening for downtown and kind of close off the streets, bring a band in on a circle, stuff like that, to try to promote our businesses. We wanted to try to get everybody open.
Gotcha.
So we're waiting on Chef Mac's place to kind of fall into that. Probably cool off and let the rain stop too.
Yeah, good point.
But we don't have anything on the books right now for movie nights anymore that I know of.
I'm just more so thinking of just generalized potential discussion around activities or other things to be a conduit to bring business downtown or bring locals or visitors downtown to create some interest that might help the other businesses and lulls and stuff like that. So that was more just a thought and could be a separate topic for discussion when Christy's back from.
We can do that, and I know that there a couple of the businesses have proposed like doing like a quarterly, like Friday night event type thing, stuff like that. So there are some conversations. I just don't think that we have anything kind of
Formal or.
yeah, it's solid enough to come back and say, hey, what do y'all think?
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Tracy, not Tracy, Rachel.
I'm good. I
Okay,
think I've asked all the questions tonight.
you sure? You have more
Yeah,
time?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, nothing further. We are.